So breaking news. We're recording this Wednesday evening,
It's
LA
8:30
time.
local time, LA time.
8:30 local. It's what time is it here? 12:30 in the afternoon, Thursday here in Macau. But breaking news from Tashawn Reed of The Athletic with some very big breaking news. Props to Tashawn for breaking this. Raiders owner Mark Davis agrees in principle to sell 15% of team via source. We're like, well, I thought he just did. No, he's selling another 15% of his team. Love it. Las Vegas owner Mark Davis has agreed in principle to sell 15% of the franchise, according to league source. Silver Lake co-CEO and Endeavor board chairman Egon Durbin and Discovery Land Company founder and chairman Michael Meldman have each bid separately to acquire 7.5% stakes in the Raiders, the source said. Now the NFL Finance Committee has to approve this. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. But when you're these big of heavy hitters, they are just hoops. Like they're taken care of. Like when you're multi-billionaires, you get this stuff.
Yeah, they can make the numbers line up.
They can make it work, right? Like when you're that rich, it's like if there's anything in the way, you just call a senator that you've already bought and paid for to make it work, right? Like this is happening. And obviously this is coming after Tom Brady, Tom Wagner, and little bitty Richard Seymour bought 10.5%. So 25% of the Raiders are gone from Mark Davis. So you looked up Michael Meldman. I know who Egon Durbin is because there's a giant UFC connection here. So he's the Silver Lake co-CEO. Silver Lake is an enormous hedge fund. Endeavor is the company that owns TKO, which owns the UFC and WWE. So, and Egon Durbin is a board chairman of Endeavor and co-CEO of Silver Lake. So it's the hedge fund that supports the money of the parent company that owns the corporation, the stock trade corporation of the UFC. So that's how I know who he is. Michael Meldman, you looked up. I had no idea who that is.
Yeah, so Discovery Land Company is one of the biggest real estate development companies not just in the country, but in the world. Gotcha. And they were doing $1 billion in sales a year in 2015. So you can imagine what it is now. And so he's a hitter too.
So we thought that Antonio Pierce is bringing in a lot of people to help him out. Mark Davis is selling. It's a garage sale for chunks of the Raiders at this point.
I doubt he's getting garage sale prices. I'll tell you that.
It's not a going out of business sale. It's an everything must go because I think the price is so high. So this is telling me that Mark Davis. So in the NFL, you have to have a succession plan that you give to the NFL every single year. They can't have you just die and then have there be this giant legal fight between kids or companies to try to get control of NFL teams. They want to avoid that. So they said you have to have a succession plan every single year, right? So this sounds to me like Mark Davis is starting the succession plan to leave. Why is this happening now? The NFL just passed, I think 2 seasons ago, a rule that the minimum you can sell a team is drastically decreased. They wanted to keep it so that there was just one ownership group of every team. One family owns an NFL franchise. They changed that, I believe, 2 seasons ago. So now Mark Davis can sell off 0.5% more. Well, private equity and 0.5% to a former player, 5% to Tom Brady, 5% Tom Brady business manager, 7.5% to these two bajillionaires, right? So
let me buy 0.5%.
Yeah,
guaranteed money, dude.
Life. You'll be just to be able to afford the food in the suites. To get that free, it's worth it. You see that was $750 for a bucket of wings and a pizza at a UNLV suite. Anyway, these all rich guys are gonna get very, very, very richer. So there's a million ways to go with this. I'll start with Mark Davis is strategically selling. So obviously selling to Tom Brady is I want you financially invested in this team more than hiring him as a GM or a consultant or whatever. It's I want you tied for life to the financial stake of the Raiders. So you've got as much as it's still I don't know how long it's gonna take me to finally get over it. I know I will, but it is still really fucking weird that Tom Brady is basically a Raider. I'll get over it, but it's still makes my butthole pucker. But I get it. Like, but the guy, knows how to win. He knows how to culture change. He knows how to, I'll get over it. I know why Tom Brady got sold. I also know why it also makes perfect sense for him to sell to Egon Durbin, who, because he, Silver Lake co-CEO, the guy knows finance and money and has access to all kinds of shit. And 2, being the Endeavor chairman, he knows live events and sports because he owns the company TKO that owns WWE and UFC. And they just bought like PBR, professional bull riding. Like,
dude,
he knows live events.
Yeah, it was so packed when I went and the PBR was there.
Yeah. And so like TKO, WWE, and UFC have gone international. They're getting location rights, international distribution. Like he knows how to take a live sporting event international. So first thing to me was like, these were strategic sells that not just rich guys that just want to have a team. I'm sure that's mostly it, but these are rich guys that want to have a team that are in businesses and have skill sets and relationships that can help the business side of the Raiders. And where that translates to success in the field, who knows? But they have access and knowledge and experience in ways that can make the Raiders more successful financially.
Also, these aren't equities and companies that are, or conglomerates that are going to want to sell this quickly, because it's going to be it's an investment for them. So they're not going to want to sell. They're going to want to keep it as the NFL makes more money.
I still believe the primary reason anyone buys an NFL franchise is the prestige. Like, to be an NFL owned, there's a lot of billionaires. There's hundreds of billionaires in the world. There's only now that some are cut in half, there's only like 30 to 35 people that own decent chunks of an NFL franchise. So you buy it to keep it and brag to your other billionaire friends. It's like, oh, you only own a hockey team? Psh,
check this
come to Allegiant Stadium. Yeah.
Well, I see Mark continuing to do this, but I don't see him selling any. I don't see him selling to any one person to more than what he sold Tom Brady to. I think it's still going to be like 5, 7, stuff like that. It's not going to be more than 10 to any one person. And these, like I was just saying, none of these, owners are going to want to sell their part of the team to one of the other ones so they can get more, because they want to keep it for themselves as well. So, it's you can almost kind of like look through the fog and see where Tom Brady can be like the majority owner somewhere down the line. I'm not saying I want it. I'm not saying I don't want it. So don't flip out on me. But it's the guys that are buying the 7.5% have infinitely more money and more influence in the world of business than Tom Brady does.
Yeah.
And he's selling them less than when he sold Tom Brady.
Yeah. So that's like the money finance part of it that I like to geek out on. But I think the vast majority of you are like, well, what the fuck does this mean? Can we start winning games now? And I think it's a positive. It's starting to sound like Mark Davis, let's call a spade a spade. He's been a shit owner on the field. Oh, yeah. The awful run the Raiders have been on, it was Al Davis getting senile and not losing, refusing to let go of the team, decision-making. That's what started the downward trend. And then Mark Davis took over and it's been just as bad. He's been atrocious. There's only been one consistency in the Raiders losing for the last 20 years, and it hasn't been coach, hasn't been quarterback, hasn't been GM, it hasn't been president, it's been owner. It's been Mark Davis not knowing what the fuck to do. So now he's starting to sell off the team to not just rich guys, but rich guys who know what they're talking about in different facets of sports. So if this means that Mark Davis is now finally letting the adults take over, this is great news. What have I been saying for 2 years, Soto? The Raiders have been ma and pa.
Yeah.
It's been run like a corner deli. And again, there's a lot of good stuff for guys that have been in the organization for 30 years and they worked their way to the top, and blue collar guys and aren't afraid of work, roll up their sleeve. Every organization needs that. They also need Harvard MBAs with finance. They also need guys that grew up blue blood, that went to private school, along with senators that they can hit up and get shit done.
You guys that are able to shake those trees, man, and get shit done.
Like, it's like there's class warfare and these people are the enemy, but we want them on our side. Like, they're not going anywhere, right? We want the 1% of the 1% of the 1% to have their fingers in our team because that's what makes them better. So it sounded like Mark Davis is not just selling as part of his transition or succession plan, but he's selling pretty strategically, where it sounds like he's bringing guys that know a million times more than him about things that are very important on the field. And that is, this isn't hyperbole. That's literally the best thing that can happen to the Raiders. Not drafting a quarterback that's going to be an MVP, not nailing a coach that's going to be 20 years successful. Nothing is more important for the long-term health of the Raiders, both financially and, more importantly, what we care about, winning on the field, than Mark Davis loosening the reins and handing it off to the adults.
Yeah, and it's not simply just about the people that are going to be hired. It's about how the organization is structured, how the division of labor and responsibility, and the checks and balances on top of that. So it's these guys know how successful businesses that make even more money than the NFL makes run, and what it takes for what traits that it takes for each specific position to be successful. And this was a big reason why there was a lot of gaps in revenue, and when it was in Oakland, in revenue, and in just being able to get free agents and how to structure the different contracts, and just to run the team. It was so many just gaps that were left. And then, once Mark and the Raiders moved to Vegas, we said there's mom and pop. It's too much money involved for it to be mom and pop.
Yeah,
you can get overwhelmed if you don't know how to run this properly. And it just seems like he's looking at things and it's like, yeah, man, I'm getting kind of overwhelmed. I am in way over my head when it comes to this franchise, because it's no longer just a football team anymore. This is like a huge money making. Like, if you just took each one of these NFL teams and just broke them off and like made them a company, they're like one of the biggest companies in the country just by themselves, but with the amount of money that the NFL makes. So he does need the help.
So no word yet on Mark Davis, no word yet from the team, no word yet from Wagner and any other buyers. This is just breaking news literally as we're recording. So we'll keep you up to date as people start making statements and more comes out. But this is, when I nerd out on off the field stuff because I know how much that means for the future of the team and on the field stuff. Mark my words, this will have an effect on the field, and it definitely feels positive. So we'll let you know as things change, and also what this means for the team winning. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.